Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us in this session. So we're going to be talking about how data preparation, self-service data preparation can help you modernize data management, data quality, data integration strategies, and practices within your organization. My name is Pete Loebser. I'm Senior Vice President and a Global Head of Marketing at Paxata, and I'm incredibly excited to have three of our customers up here on stage. So I'm going to try and be as quick as I can to get out of the way and let the smart people talk about this. So from Nationwide, Mark Marshalek and Naren Bell will join us and talk about their experiences. And then Cox Automotive, so James Venanati and Byron Hernandez will cover their journey, and then Jake Wood from AdhereHealth will wrap up the conversation. If we've got time, we're going to be asking them a couple of additional questions through the process. So for those of you who don't know Paxata, we're a privately held company. We were founded about 7 years ago, headquarters in Redwood City. We've got sales and R&D offices across the world in various locations. We'll talk about the products. I'm not going to go into that one right at this point in time. And we've got customers across a broad range of industries, broad range of use cases. Super excited about the partners and the people that have invested in our organization. One of the things that we do very different from many startups that you see is customers do make strategic investment in us. So companies like Standard Chartered Bank, Honeywell, and these guys are not just users of our software, but they actually are strategic investors in our company. All right, story at hand. So when you attend conferences like this, we talk about digital transformation, and this is taking place pretty much in every one of our industries. I mean, whether you're in software industry, whether you're in retail, whether you're in healthcare, it doesn't matter. Our industries are being sort of changed and transformed, and in many cases, these things are causing major disruptions within our various respected markets. The other thing that is becoming incredibly clear is data is the center point of most of these transformations, and for many organizations, the ability to become data-driven is at the heart of this transformational journey. And if you look at the stats from various researchers, there is some good progress. Most organizations now report we have somebody who owns data, chief data officers and the likes. For many organizations, more than half in a recent study said that they have not established the data-driven culture. They cannot compete on data within their various markets. So it's a challenge, and Paxata has been working with numerous organizations across these various industries. And so what we'll be sharing with you are kind of the learnings we brought in there. I'd say one of the biggest challenges when we talk to people is that we are trying to do transformation in the data management space, the way that we sort of think about the data value chain. And one of the biggest mistakes is we are trying to do this with old-style thinking and tools and processes. And I would argue is that no longer is going to suffice. If you think about what we've done in the past, when data and analytics became a reality for us, we asked IT, they created the EDW, wonderful. It was very, very rigidly designed, and we even more rigidly defined the ETL processes to load these kinds of things. And that was wonderful, performed very well for the 10 questions it was designed to do. God forbid you should ask something that wasn't in there. Then it will take 2 months or 3 months to add another data set to your EDW, right? And so it becomes rigid. It becomes a very, very difficult thing. The other thing that is kind of interesting with the IT is that they know the data. They've got some really cool tools that require programming. They don't have business context. So if you've been in an IT organization taking requests from business users, I bet you've had not a single occurrence where first try gave the answer. Right? So you give the guy, this is what you ask for? It's like, yeah, but we need something else. I want it changed. I want another thing. And so you become this iterative process. Now, about 7 years ago, we decided, hey, we've got a better problem, a better way to solve this thing. We will toss the data over the fence. And we'll put it into Click and Excel and Microsoft Access, and we're going to go and knock ourselves out there. And that's exactly what happened. We started knocking ourselves out. No compliance. What did people do? We emailed things around. You load 200,000 rows in Excel, it starts choking. Well, what about the other 1,000 or the 1.5 million rows of data that I need to look at? Sorry, okay, you can't do this. So what we're looking for is an environment that brings these two worlds in harmony, that says, it's like, how do we actually do this? And so Paxata was founded upon this principle. We want to empower business users with self-service, access, to find and to interact with the data, to shape it and to prepare that data for themselves. And the key word here is business users, right? We are not going to give an environment that's code-centric. And so we did it through a unified platform. And we'll get into some of what these things mean. But number one, it has to be designed for business users, all right? They need to be able to use this, and they need to be able to work in the way that they work, which is collaborative, sharing ideas with each other. It needs to be interactive. It needs to be visual, right? It doesn't help us as to say, like, we're going to give the business user a tool, but we're going to ask you to code in Python, right? If I catch one of my marketers spending 10 hours a day coding in Python, you're out of a job. I do not need a marketer to do Python. I need you to spend 15 minutes, prep your data, and spend the rest of your day doing analysis and build the models, build the visualizations that you have there. So interactive. When we get business users, we need to help them, right? So intelligent recommendations, artificial intelligence, algorithmic intelligence need to make recommendations, right? Business users do not necessarily know the difference between an inner and outer join. Software can help. We can make it smart. And then sort of the hygiene. Okay, we need to run multi-cloud hybrid environments so that we can do all the things that need to run at scale for the enterprise. One of the things in scale is big user deployment. You'll hear from some of the guys in Nationwide the scale of the deployments these guys are running. But the other thing is data volumes. I alluded to that a little bit earlier. It doesn't help me to look for outliers in a 10 million row data set and sample it down to 70,000 rows. You're not finding outliers. You're not finding bias in your data set. You cannot do data preparation when you work in that fashion. Governance, security, and these kinds of things work through the rest. So the way that platform works, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on how the product works, we connect to a broad range of data sources, things on the left-hand side, data lakes, and all the cool things that you might have in your environment, cloud data sources, S3, etc. Step one is the intelligent ingest, meaning bringing data in. If you look at data that lives in a JSON file, that lives in a data lake, somebody forgot to put an extension on the file, the last thing you want your user to do is to try and figure out what's the compression, what's the file type, what's the format. Intelligent ingest can help you. Next step is about profiling, understanding the data, the value distributions. Then you begin to explore. Right? So step 3 is explore. I bring more data in. I want to combine. I want to append the data. Again, intelligent recommendations can help me do these kinds of things without getting into bad situations. And then you begin to clean the data up. You shape it for whatever your purpose. If it's for BI, a nice tabular shape is a great way for the data to be represented. If your data is science, you need to do feature engineering. You need to binarize certain values because your data models need to look at it differently. Very easy click button kind of interactions with that. And then the last part of this is something that is increasingly becoming important, is these data prep jobs no longer run as one-offs and then die. Somebody do a model, somebody do a report, and we kill the data set off. These things increasingly become part of the operational fabric within organizations, within IT. So operationalizing, automating these things become critical. And then on the right-hand side, where people consume this. As I said, it's not just BI today. We have customers that do application migration with the platform. We have people that are creating masters, so a customer master, a dealer master, as the Cox Automotive team will be talking about that, and so we'll share some of this in flow. So enough on my side. I'm going to turn this over to the experts. So Mark and Aaron, I am going to turn the stage over to you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Once again, Mark Marszalek from Nationwide Insurance. What you see here is a great starting point. This is a picture of our corporate office, and what I love to call out about this picture is, you notice our brand and an eagle. It's one of the most prominent brands out there today, and it's a reflection of what we are, which is on your side from a company perspective. Just to give a little bit of detail about what Nationwide is, we are a financial services company that provides property casualty insurance, retirement products, as well as life insurance. Some of the things I like to call out on this slide is, obviously you see that we're number one in 457 retirement plans, small business insurance, as well as farms and ranches. That's important to us because we were founded on the premise of supporting farms and ranches as a starting point for our organization. The one thing I like to call out on this slide that a lot of people don't realize, we're also number one in pet insurance. And I find that fascinating. It's one of our largest growth areas, and most people don't know you can buy insurance for your pet. So if you get a chance, go out, take a look on our website, because it is a very interesting product. As stated previously, we're part of the Enterprise Data Office. I lead the Capability Uplift team. What does that mean? Well, we are trying to enable data and analytics capabilities across the enterprise, focus on operationalizing those and maximizing the values from those. How do we do this? We maintain a list of the capabilities and technologies that we have available to us. We advocate for new technologies. I mean, many of us have seen how these technologies unfold or come into play. And if you just look at the Expo Center, you see all the new technologies that are out there. And the last piece is one of the items that we take exceptional pride in is we provide personalized service to our business and IT resources that are using the technologies and trying to enable the capabilities. That's one area where we've really differentiated ourselves from a service perspective, and that's one area we take a lot of pride in moving forward. Within the work we've been doing as a Capability Uplift team, we've identified some analytic problems, and I am sure if you were to look at these 5 steps, and I won't go through them in great detail, but they probably all resonate with each one of you. So what are the problems we face? What data do I need? Where is it? Locating data is probably one of the most difficult things that a lot of our folks are faced with on a day-to-day basis. But that's not the end. Hey, I found it. What do I do? How do I blend it with other data sets? More and more individuals need that type of activity and that type of functionality in order to maximize the value of this next challenge or problem. I need to provide quick insights. The time to delivery can't take months, it can't take weeks. In some instances, we need to even focus on days and hours. And then what do I do to make sure I can do this again? Repeatability is very, very important from our perspective. And the last one, and we're seeing this more and more as the job market continues to heat up, as people change roles. I've taken a new role. How do I transition this to a new individual? Within that, what we found as we've implemented Paxata, that it really can touch and highlight each one of those steps within the analytics problem. We can use, or we've used Paxata to curate and share data. We bring it in and combine it with other components. The volume and size of data that we can bring in and analyze and blend and use to develop the insights we need is incredible. The automation piece is something used on a regular basis. Let's face it, some of our leaders don't want to just get a one-and-done report. They want to see it week after week, day after day. So the automation is absolutely important. And that last one, the steps that are included in the Paxata solution really allow for that ease of transition. Now you can start to see the mindset of the user who created the project or the data environment so that you can move forward with transitioning that to a new user. So as we move forward and leverage Paxata to enable those various challenges that we discussed in the analytics problem, we're starting to see some very, very tangible value, and the time or the return has not taken significant amounts of time. Right now within our accounting and finance organization, we've identified or are working to identify up to $7 million in potential savings through data blending, bringing some data, large data, transactional data together, and leveraging other tools on top of that to develop some insights into where some potential expense savings can be. We've also identified an opportunity to eliminate or not bring in, because I've seen this on numerous occasions, another data application. The way they were going, the path they were headed, it would have cost us about $105,000. The next 2 items, the life insurance office, the 5,200 hours of FTE, I think that's what naturally everybody sees when they hear data blending coming in. So we've had, what I equate to there is efficiencies, process efficiencies. Our analysts can now spend more time doing the analysis work as opposed to sitting there blending data. And the last item is a reduction in the system audits by about 8 weeks, which once again is savings to the organization because the resources that were previously doing it are now available to do other tasks. What does this mean? Yes, these are great numbers, but at the end of the day, our primary goal is to make our rates affordable to our members. And these opportunities and these types of things really enable us to take advantage of lower rates and pass those rates off, that savings off to our customers and those types of things. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Bell, who's going to talk a little bit about how we operationalize Paxata.
Thanks, Mark. So at some point, you're going to put on a new technology, right? So you want to have a plan in place to get the most return on that investment, right? You don't want to put it on the shelf and hope that your analytic community comes and finds it. You want to take it to them. So this is our plan for onboarding Paxata. So when we started, we shared at a number of knowledge-sharing events internally. We did a lot of personalized demos to individuals and teams, and we still do that today. And most of those demos, we went to them. They didn't come to us asking for something. We took it to them. Right now, you can see where we're at. This is all about personalization. So personalized support. Whatever question you might have, our users know that they can come to us, our team. We even do consulting days. So one day a month, we'll do a full day where users can schedule half-hour sessions with us, and we'll run through their use cases. And in the event that we can't figure it out, Paxata has been an awesome partner in helping us out. So people say, what can you really do that personalized approach? Well, the answer is yes, to a point. And that point is when you've reached that or you've built that core community. And at that point, the community can start taking care of itself, and you can back off of the personalization a little bit. So why did we take Paxata to such a large scale, enterprise-wide? Well, because it meets a common need. Data prep is a common need. Right now, we have data engineers, data scientists, a lot of business analysts, even people that are totally new to data and analytics using Paxata, getting value from Paxata. And it's not just multiple personas, it's multiple teams. So if you look at our list here, you can see we have anyone from accounting and finance to our investment arm to multiple product offices, claims, sales, you name it. All using Paxata, all getting value. Mark pointed out a few cases where we had major expense and time savings. That was from 2 teams. We have 76 teams using Paxata. Imagine the value we're getting at the enterprise level. The more people that are using Paxata, the more efficiencies we're getting through, again, automation and sharing data, and our speed to insight has dramatically improved. So as you can see, right now we're putting on about 35 new users a month, again, 76 teams, and last week we hit 500 users enterprise-wide, and that is not slowing down. So now you'll hear from Cox Automotive.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to thank Paxata for the opportunity to give us to tell a little bit about our story. Cox Automotive, and in case you guys don't know a little bit about what Cox does, probably a lot of brands and businesses here you don't recognize, probably recognize Auto Trader, Kelley Blue Book. A lot of the stuff we do is directly with the dealers, whether it's auctioning with Manheim or something else. But a lot of these businesses take the same dealer information and they use it completely differently because they have completely different businesses, and a lot of these businesses were acquired throughout the years by Cox, so they have their own data sources. So that's one of the reasons why we have a master data where we keep all the dealer information stored. And there's challenges, of course, involved with that, where you're looking to see if the same dealer is the same across all different data sources. So that's one of the things that we try to do is our data quality program is to keep everything consistent throughout those different data sources. Byron will talk a little bit more about that later. There's obviously a lot of the needs for challenges around that in terms of if a dealer is different in the customer master than what it should be, because you get stuff like name and address information, and possibly a unique thing with dealers is they can be bought and sold and keep the same name after they've been bought and sold. So if you're just looking at the data, you might not realize it initially. So some of the challenges we were facing was the need to have additional information in the client master. We went to IT and they were able to create some specialized reports. I think as I mentioned before, we see a 3 or 4 week lead time to get into that. And, the report was the report. If you wanted additional information or wanted that pivoted to a specific need, you had to get a new report. Excel, were kind of running up to the limit of Excel, where either we couldn't put all the data in, or if we did, it was, some of those pivot tables. It was basically go get a lunch and come back and see if your information was ready for you by then. So, this is kind of the data quality management framework that we worked under. And what we were seeing initially was the data quality group was really bottlenecking everything, where we were really getting stuck on steps 2 and 3. We couldn't get the information that was needed to the data stewards to get the work done. And if we did, that information could quickly go stale. So we could have a situation where the data would be kind of stuck. We would get a report out to them in a week. If they happen not to be able to get to it that week, it might take us another week to redo that report. One of the things that Paxata has let us do is we were able to take all these different data sources, compare them in Paxata, automate reports. So we're running reports on a daily and weekly basis. That's going out to the data stewards, but it's also being pushed out into dashboards. We're using both Tableau, and we've started using Click. Works really, really well together. We're able to pivot very quickly. So if executive wants to look at the highest revenue customers or customers by area, or for us, if they're really interested in Honda, all the dealers that deal with Honda or Mercedes, we're able to very quickly pivot on that. And some of the ways that Paxata is letting us do that is we're taking all the data sources and we're only giving the data stewards the highest value for them to work. So, we of course don't have endless resources to just say, these are all the mismatches, go ahead and work all of them all at one time. We're trying to get whatever we're sending out to a data steward to be the highest value at that time. And, that's something I think Byron can talk a little bit more on in terms of how the actual kind of nuts and bolts of what Paxata is doing.
Thank you, Jim. So part of my role as a data analyst is actually to help Jim get from the left side, your left side, to the right side, that targeted set of data that he needs to work with. So how do we do that? Well, in the past, we used a set of siloed different tools, either to download the data or extract the data, process the data, clean it, aggregate it, run matching algorithms, send it or prepare it for a steward. So what do we do with Paxata now? Paxata takes over most of that job requirement. So what it does is it brings in the data, it processes it, it cleans it. We're able to apply our own algorithms for matching. And we're able to, within Paxata, also send out a specific targeted files that are either steward ready or ready for a BI tool. So what does that look like in terms of benefits? So we're going to start with the highest of resources, time. Time savings for us has gone from 95 minutes. If we wanted to run a discrepancy report, it would take about 95 minutes every time we wanted to run it. So that time has actually gone down to 0, but you're going to see 10 minutes in case some reports require additional massaging at the end, but I think we're okay with that. So what are we doing with all that free time? Well, now we're coming to conferences and telling you about it. That's one. No, actually what we did is we did our job. So we went out and looked for more data sources. We started to look at different data points. We said, look, Paxata can take in more. We're not limited to that Excel or Access file limit, row limit. So we went out and looked at more. And actually, Jim started to develop also additional discrepancies that we can look at once. We didn't have to wait or run another report, another 90 minutes, and then turn around and say, oh, I want to change it, and then I got to do another 90 minutes because of Jim. So second thing that we actually gained, I think it's a big benefit for us, is availability and consistency. Availability because most of the reports, given the time that it took for us to run it, we were only running either once a month or once a week, depending on the priority of it. We're running that daily now. We automate the jobs in Paxata. They run for about, the main ones run for about 30, 35 minutes in the morning. By the time we walked in the office, we have the data available to us. Not only that, but we actually have historical data aggregating on a daily basis. So if Jim finds a discrepancy, he can go back in time and say, oh, this is when it happened. Let's look at why it happened at that point. The other part of it is it's also steward ready, so we spend less time on that. The other part of it that I like about it is consistency. Previously, we were touching the data at too many points. You introduce room for error. As perfect as humans are, we're going to make mistakes. So that consistency that Paxata has given us, it's a huge benefit for us. So just to describe very quickly, Jim mentioned a single view of a client is basically what we're driving towards. We have too many companies, and one of the requests is to be able to see that customer across all of them, be able to visualize whether or not that customer bought certain products from a certain company and also another, and cross-product and cross-brand. So to do that, we either look at potential merges, potential unmerges. These are just a couple of examples. Did we combine two records that represent that customer accurately, or did we overmerge them and we need to separate them? They're two different companies. So to do that, we use our own name cleaning within Paxata and a standardization process. Same with address. And also we like the clustering capability that Paxata offers, which is helpful in getting those associations. Once we get to the set of data that we need, we are able to combine either hash or associations that help us get that set of data. And I actually wanted to mention a quick example, because this always you think of large scales, but another benefit we found is I got an email the other day with two different files. One was Excel file with 300 rows, not really that bad. The other one was a CSV file with over 2.2 million records. The request was simple. They wanted that category, the 300 row categories, spread out in the 2.2 million records. Okay. And they also wanted to pivot that data. So good luck opening that file in Excel. And if you manage to open it somewhere, good luck running a VLOOKUP on a 2.2 million record, right? And then pivot that. So with Paxata, I was able to upload the file, associate the files, pivot it, and get it back to Excel, since it was a smaller data set at that point, within 4 minutes, and send it back to the user that requested it within 7 minutes. So small tasks are also where the efficiencies that Nationwide described are also where you find those efficiencies and time savings. It's just a great benefit. And now Jim's going to come back and close it up for us.
So previously, right now with Paxata, one dealer ID, we can mark everything that's wrong with it. It makes it a lot easier and quicker for the data stewards to work with it. We've also been working with Paxata for over a year, so we've got all that data. We've trended, and we can show executives what we've done last year. And also, for certain metrics, we can say, okay, we didn't spend as much time with this in 2018. If we don't look at this in 2019, here's kind of what we're going to look at. It's really transformational for us in terms of the amount of data we have and the things that we're able to do with it now. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jake.
Thanks a lot. I also want to just really express our appreciation from AdhereHealth to everyone at Paxata and the partnership that we've been able to forge with you guys this year. It's been a very exciting year for us. We've had record growth in 2018, and we expect that to continue in really every measure of growth: employees, revenue, and lives under management. And from that, we know that y'all are going to continue to be a great partner. So thank you for inviting us to share our story this morning. As I mentioned, I'm here with AdhereHealth, and who we are is we are a medication adherence company. And our mission is to address $300 billion annually in unnecessary healthcare expenses that are due to some kind of problem with medication adherence, either the wrong meds being prescribed, the right meds not being taken, or the medications not being taken on time sometimes due to side effects, but what we're finding is mostly due to social determinants and barriers to being able to access the care that many of the consumers that we service need. We're the brainchild of a rural Tennessee pharmacist named Fred McWhorter. And Fred was working in a small town in the aftermath and immediate follow-up to the launch of Medicare Part D in the early 2000s. And he was astonished at the number of individuals who were coming into his pharmacy with a brand new drug benefit that they didn't understand. Medications prescribed by multiple doctors who weren't able to communicate with one another and who didn't really realize the dangerous situations that they were creating through drug regimens that were going to conflict or interact with one another that would cause dangerous side effects. Fred frequently talked about this with his brother Clayton because he knew that Clayton McWhorter, a former CEO of Hospital Corporation of America, knew the right people to put in a room to solve this problem. How do I take the passion and knowledge of a pharmacist who wants to do nothing more than care for his patients and scale that across the entire country? Tragically, Fred, when he was hospitalized in 2006, passed away from a medication error. And from that, PharmMD, which is now AdhereHealth as of about a week and a half ago, so I'm going to apologize to my marketing team now, I'm going to get that wrong at least once. And we were launched shortly after that, and now, almost 15 years later, we're working in the commercial insurer space, we're working with Medicaid and Medicare plans, and we're working with self-insured employers. And through all of our client partners, we are now working on analyzing the medication profiles and, where necessary, doing outreach for over 10 million consumers, and we expect that only to grow as focus on medication adherence within the healthcare industry continues to expand. So, no surprise, to pursue this mission, we need a lot of data. Our primary files we work with are plan eligibility. We also get medical claims and pharmacy claims, and some of those come in the tens of millions of records on a daily basis. While we'd like to believe that some of the standard specifications for that kind of data that are out there would have been able to be used over time, the reality we've experienced is that either due to rigid processes in our clients' IT departments or because some of the third-party administrators who are doing claims payments for self-insured employers didn't see the benefit in partnering with us, we've had to deal with a large variation in the size, shape, and quality of these files as we brought them in. That's to say nothing of the ad hoc files that we have to accept for some of the regulatory and compliance parts of what we do in the Medicare space. For instance, every plan is required to keep track of the people who call them up and say, I appreciate the service, but it's not for me. Please don't contact me or my doctor anymore. The federal government says that it has to be tracked. They don't say that every company has to track it the same way. Finally, as we've grown this year, we've seen an increased appetite for internal reporting, and with that, we've seen our needs for internal data movement really explode. We're setting up operational data stores and an enterprise data warehouse, and with that project, we've found the need to marry this external data over which we have very little control and our internal data over which you would think we would have more control is still the kind of problem that I was happy to bring Paxata in to help us address. So, what we were facing that was difficult, I've already mentioned the lack of a common data standard. That was driving long implementations. It was driving long implementations not only because we had to wait for our clients to implement a piece of code to deliver us data in a particular form or particular shape, which invariably there would always start debate over, okay, which IT department's really going to do the work? And finally, that every time we would interact with the developer at the developer level without that important business context, we would have 3, 4, 5, 6 times going back and forth with the files. Once we got the physical shape of the data, only then could we start talking about what the files contained and whether or not the quality and the logical meaning of the information inside the files was really usable for what we were trying to do for this client. Fundamentally, that continues to drive a delay for our company in collecting revenue, which is important, but it drives a delay for our clients in being able to increase their quality score metrics. It drives a delay in our clients, our self-insured clients, for recouping the medical benefits and the benefits in less time loss away from work. And most importantly to me, and where I try to stay focused, there's that clinical delay. There's an individual in each one of these files during client implementation that the sooner we can get one of our clinicians connected with them, the sooner we can address an imminent or high-risk potential medication error. Everything that we've been doing has required a developer skill set that's hard to find in what has been a very tight data developer labor market in Nashville over the last 10 years. And it's a higher cost resource. Finally, since we've been setting up these really rigid ETL processes around our understood opportunities, as the medication adherence space has developed over the last few years and we've been pursuing new opportunities in all of the different verticals we operate in, we've had to create product line specific intake workflows. So it's clear what we needed. We needed shorter implementations, we needed a way to bring data analysts and business experts into the implementation pipeline, and we needed a way to improve our flexibility in introducing new data quality measures as we started to identify both general and client-specific issues in the files we were receiving. And that is what I said to my new CEO last summer when we started our journey with Paxata. We're still just in the very beginning stages of implementing this journey, but what we expect to do with this platform is to shift all of that implementation work, all of that discovery and exploration from the expensive, context-independent development resources into our data analysts and our business experts. We want that to reduce the cycle time spent between us and our clients when we're implementing, and we want to make sure that if they have some kind of output that's already developed, that they can turn over to us in a week instead of a month, that we do everything we can, since we know the development's going to be custom anyway. Let's take all of that customization on our side and do everything we can to reduce their expense of switching to us as their medication adherence vendor. So with Paxata, we're going to be able to allow for that kind of flexible, logical data specification. We'll have that quicker turnaround, and now that we have the ability to use our data analysts who understand the need for quality and understand what quality metrics are going to be like, we expect to evolve what we're measuring in data quality really every week once we have our first implementation using Paxata's platform. So the bottom line, we know we want faster implementation, and we know that our ability to intake changes to the files once they're already in production, which, yeah, that never happens, right? We're going to be able to have less downtime for our active clients. We're also merging all of those disparate product-specific intake workflows into a single service-based data preparation pipeline for the enterprise. We know that for our clients, they're going to have to spend less IT time and less dollars and less delay when they initially implement with us, but they're also going to have less time in that reduction to the claims expense and less time in reduction to improvement of their quality metrics that we're trying to partner with them to improve. But it still comes down to those patients that were walking into Fred's Pharmacy in the early 2000s and everything that we've done to try to scale the passion and skill of a rural Tennessee pharmacist and what he wanted for everyone that he wasn't able to personally provide care for. Those clinical benefits to address medication adherence issues sooner and provide that more complete picture of a consumer's health became very real for me during our pilot with Paxata this last fall. We've recently expanded into being able to actually provide for those customers that are interested coordinated home-delivered medications. In the acquisition of AdhereRx, we of course took on some implementations that they already had in flight. One with a very large health insurance company that, rather than working with IT, they had been working with a project manager to try to define the data spec. We had essentially a nightmare scenario. We wound up with data that really met none of what we would have expected our minimum specifications for our outreach system, our clinical system, that it required. And yet still, we needed to make this product real, and we needed to make it real as quickly as possible. Because this client had been promised a certain timeline, and our choice to acquire AdhereRx couldn't be allowed to be a delay. We analyzed the files, and instead of taking 2 days to get the workflow management tool we used previously to understand that 50 characters is enough, that'll be perfectly wide. Within about 10 minutes, honestly, in less time than it took to log into my company's VPN, I was looking at the data. I transformed it. I used the robust functional language within Paxata to add default values for those fields that were missing, and I had it exported into our system in about 48 hours. And I went on about my business until 2 weeks later at our company town hall, when our Chief Health Services Officer, as she does at the beginning of every one of our company meetings, shared a patient impact story. And she talked about one of our AdhereRx patients that our clinician had gotten on the phone with him, had talked to him with his medications, and she noticed something was a little off. So she pursued with some first responder type questions. We were able to identify that this individual was having a heart attack while we were on the phone with them. You know, it's easy to understand, it's easy to sit there and think that one more day, one more week, processing a particular file, getting a new client up and running, when it's going to be a multi-year relationship, maybe that doesn't make a difference. It made an awful lot of difference to that man and his family, how fast we were able to get our new product up and running. I'll turn it back over to Pete to close up.
Awesome. Jake, thank you so much. How do you top that one? That's pretty tough. I know we have about 2 minutes left, so I have a question for you guys. So I'm interested in the cultural change. I mean, what do you work in an environment and it's very much command and control and IT wants to hold on to it? How do you advise people to start changing the culture to embrace this kind of self-service?
Boy, I know from our perspective, it takes patience, a lot of communication, and a lot of relationship building. I'd love to say there's this magic response, but there isn't, and you just got to work and chip away one person at a time, and that's what our team is devoted to from a delivery standpoint, and that's what's helped us from my perspective. Aaron, I don't know if you have anything more.
Yeah, and this is something that people have been waiting for a long time. So, you know, we sit in the room, we do a demo, and they say, everything I've been wanting to do on my own, I can do now.
Cool. Jim?
Yeah, no, I think it takes a lot of great leaders, but also, you know, realizing what the problem is, and, you know, looking at the problem rather than a person as a problem. You know, it's not necessarily IT can't do something. It's we have a problem that we need to, you know, address with our clients, and, you know, this is a way that, you know, we can really do that. So it's all kind of working together.
I think from my perspective, one of the things that has worked is actually with IT is we've also been able to use Paxata to make certain changes before you ask for a permanent request in their services. So you don't have to enlist them every time you need a change. You can prototype it in Paxata and then request a change once you're ready to make that. So I think that kind of helps as well.
Jack, I'll leave the last for you.
My developers couldn't be happier. They hate cleaning data. They hate maintaining the beast that we've built over the course of the last 10 years. And by bringing them in to our strategic plan for how we're going to use the platform to improve intake and quality, and allowing them to keep what works and replace what doesn't, I've got nothing but excitement to go home to. So.
Cool. Jake, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for these guys that have joined me for the braveness and fantastic job. Appreciate it.